penmanship. So check your posture, check your paper slant, and remember that you're going to use your best pencil position as you write today and your best pace, not too fast and not too slow. I want you to think about runners who race around a track. There's a starting line. That starting line is very important. If they start before they're supposed to, or if they're in the wrong lane, then they're disqualified from the race. There's also an ending place where they end that race and they finish. Those are very important to runners who are racing around a track. So today as we write, I want you to watch carefully for the places that we start our letters and the places that we stop our letters, where they finish. Watch for those as we write. We're going to review our 3 lines. First of all, we have the top line that we are not going to touch. Then we have the dotted line that leaves a 1/4 inch space from the top. And then there's the bottom line. Our letters are going to stay between that dotted line and that bottom line. So let's watch as we go over the letter C from our last lesson. As we were practicing the letter C, we noticed that it is 3/4 size, that it starts just under that top line, that it has a long teardrop that comes up, down, around, curves, and then stops with a neat tail. Lowercase c is half size, the capital letter. It starts just under that half size space, then curves up with a hook, comes around, and then finishes with a neat tail. Today we're going to look at capital and lowercase letter D. First of all, capital letter D is near that 3/4 size space, just under that top line, and it's going to slant to that bottom line. Then there's going to be a loop that comes around to the side, and as that loop turns, it comes back to the bottom line before it heads back to the starting spot and then has a nice cap and finishes neatly. So watch that slant, watch that loop, and watch that finish. Lowercase d starts half size of uppercase, comes around just similarly to lowercase a, comes up to a size just under 3/4 size, retrace, and then stops with a neat tail. Watch as I demonstrate him on the chalkboard. I really want you to watch where it starts, where it stops, and where it connects. So as I start him, he's going to be on the dotted line. Then I'm going to come down, make a nice bubble, come back to the bottom line, go back up, and close him. This letter closes right at that dotted line, then comes around with a hat that ends neatly. Watch as I do this letter again. We're going to start at that 3/4 size dotted line, come down, loop, down back to the ground, back up, and finish with a neat hat. Now take out your hand. Today it's going to be your racing track. You're going to be a runner racing around the track. Put your finger on that track and we're going to practice some of these together. I need Jacob and Gage to come demonstrate them at the chalkboard for us at numbers 1 and 2, and you practice on your tracks as we practice together at the chalkboard. We're going to start at that red dot, slant down, come around with a loop, back down to the dotted line, back up to the close him at the top, and then swing out with a hat. Nicely done, gentlemen, on the chalkboard. You did a wonderful job making sure to close him completely at the top, making sure that was neatly closed. Excellent job. I love the slant on this one. We could make our loop here just a little bit more narrow on the bottom. Now let's practice lowercase d. So you watch as I do him on the chalkboard. We're going to start half size of the uppercase. So you're going to divide that space in the middle, and that's where your lowercase letter d will start. Then you're going to curve around just like you did for lowercase a. Come up. Now here is a very important stopping spot. He doesn't go all the way to the dotted line. There's a small space underneath that he stops, retrace with one line, and then finish with a neat tail. It's kind of like he's a teenager. He's not quite an adult yet, so he's not full grown. He's almost there, but not quite. So watch for that as you do lowercase d. And let's have Amaya and Yuna come practice at the chalkboard. You pull out your racetrack, you put your runner on your racetrack, and you be ready to do him, practice him as we do it at the chalkboard. We're going to start half size, make a lowercase a, come up a little bit farther, not quite full grown, come down, retrace, and then end with a neat tail. Girls at the chalkboard, let's do one more. We'll do 2 of them. Together, begin. So you're going to curve around like lowercase a, but come up a little bit higher, retrace, come down, and finish with a neat tail. And let's take a look at what these ladies did on the chalkboard. Nicely done. I love how neatly they retraced, and I love that loop that has that A size. One thing we can watch is to add a little bit more slant to these letters as we write so that those letters have good slant. Now, we're going to take a look at the word reading. As we connect our letters together, we want them to belong on that team. We want them to look uniform or match. They should look the same with the same slant and the same size. So you watch as I connect these letters. We're going to start under that dotted line, curve up to the dotted line, come down to the bottom line, retrace back up to the dotted line, come in halfway, come out, loop around for the lowercase e, come around for A, loop around, watch that retracing. Here's the same letter, it's an A with a taller point, come around for your I, watch that retracing, come down, watch that retracing, come around, loop back around like lowercase a, come down with the tail, finish, and then you can pick up your pencil and come back to dot your I to finish it. I know that for those of you who were listening, there was a word you heard me say several times, and it was the word retracing. You want your retracing to stay on that same track. It's like a runner who's racing. If he gets out of his lane for certain races, that disqualifies him. So you need to keep your letters in their space so they stay in their lane. Now we're going to take a look at a couple numbers, and I want you to watch where these numbers start and where these numbers stop. So let's look at number 7. As we start to write number 7, it's smaller than the 3/4 size, just a small space smaller. Then he's going to go up from his starting spot and loop up to a little space higher, then slant down just like we did with number 1. Those 2 strokes make number 7. Now let's watch for number 8. Just under 3/4 size, curve around, and stop. It's 2 times around that track. It almost looks like there are 2 complete circles around the track. So watch as he curves so you can keep him in his lane. Let's take a look at him on the chalkboard so we can watch exactly where these runners, these racers need to be, where they need to be in their lanes. So watch these numbers. We're going to start with 7 right here at the red dot. Come up just a little bit, dip, and slant down just like you would for number 1. Start at the red dot, come up, dip just a little bit, and slant down just like you would for number 1. Let's have Aiden and Emily come to the chalkboard to help me demonstrate. You get out your racetrack, you put your runner on your racetrack, and you be ready to start that number 7. We're going to start here just underneath the dotted line, come up a little bit, dip, slant down. One more time. Start just underneath, come up, dip, and slant down. Now let's take a look at our runners on our chalkboard. Excellent hook at the beginning. I like those hooks. You can dip down just a little bit and add a little bit more slant on this one. Let's have Jackson and Cadence come as we do number 8. So start your runner on your racetrack and let's practice. He starts underneath that dotted line, curves around one time around that track, comes around the second time, closes to complete his race. One more time. Starting line, curve around that racetrack, come around and close it, and complete that race so you are finished. Let's do it one more time. We're going to start at that red dot, curve around, come around that racetrack, come around, and close him to complete his race. Let's take a look at our workers at the chalkboard. Thank you. You may be seated. I love how neatly he crossed his finish line. Watch that you close it completely. Excellent job keeping those loops around the racetracks even. Nice job with that closing mark and finishing. You can make these bottom loops a little bit smaller. The racetrack stays the same, so you want it to be the same size on the top and on the bottom. Watch for those things as you finish practicing on your page today. Be very careful to keep your runners in their lanes and remember your 4 P's as you write.